Inland Sports.
Here on the Inland Sports Show, as we really start ramping up for the high school football season, we're going to check in with a lot of different teams, a lot of new head coaches in the area as well, including at Grand Terrace, Ryan Taylor taking over the Titans. And Coach Taylor, first off, congrats on the gig at GT. Is this your first head coaching gig at any level?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is my first head coaching gig, so really excited to hit the ground running over here.
Well, I know you've been in the coaching game for a long time, for a while now, and being a head coach, though, it's a little bit different, right? Because everything at the end of the day falls on your shoulders.
Yeah, I think, obviously going to be some learning curves with it, but I've been lucky in a decade of coaching to learn from three really, really good mentors, and having played for two amazing coaches in our area. I feel blessed with the experience that I do have coming into it.
All right, so your experience, we'll get to your coaching experience in a second, but let's rewind a little bit even farther than that and going back to your playing days. You said you've got connections to Rev, you've got connections to Aquinas, you've played for some great coaches. Talk about some of your playing experience and how that might play into the way you coach now at Grand Terrace.
Yeah, well, growing up, coming from a football family, my grandfather was the head football coach at Ukaipa for a really, really long time, and got to learn as a kid. I felt like my coaching experience started when I was, 2 and 3, growing up in a locker room and a weight room, and holding on to a 5-man sled as a little kid. But I got to high school, and first I was lucky to play or be in the program under Kurt Bruick, who I think obviously is one of the best that there is. Just understanding, expectation and a standard and how to consistently live up to the standard. I think, there was no secret why Rev was that good. Coach set a standard and had a way of doing business that I was excited to learn from. I think being a coach's kid, even as a freshman and a sophomore in high school, I was able to really take that in and understand the importance of it. And then I got to go over and, I played for Coach Ibarra at Aquinas, where I finished out, and obviously had Jordan Bruzig over there on our staff, who's doing great things. And even though I wasn't part of the Bruzig era per se at Aquinas, I think having Coach Ibarra and Coach Bruzig over there and seeing the Aquinas way of doing things, that's something I take with me everywhere I've been.
And you said you handed the ball off to Brandon Rankins quite a bit in your day, right?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be there for that first year. If we fumbled more of those exchanges, he might not have been the rushing leader. No, I'm just kidding. I get it.
Yeah, the all-time leader in San Bernardino County. So, Coach Taylor, when the Grand Terrace job opened up, GT's had some success. They've had some good teams. What was appealing about the Grand Terrace job for you?
Well, I think the big thing, for me, you hear a lot of people talk about family. But doing my research on this job, I think it was pretty apparent how close-knit the group was. I think the head coaches that have come before me did a great job of making sure that there was unity in this program. And you see a lot of strong pieces that are returning to our staff this year. And that was a big component of me coming here, was the family and the unity. But like you said, the success. There's a really good foundation here for playing hard-nosed, old-school football, which is something that I take pride in and want to be able to do. We'll look a little bit different in how we do some things, but I think those true cores of what Grand Terrace football is, and that's hard-nosed, 4 quarters of effort football, is going to continue.
That's a perfect segue into my next question. I'm just curious what Grand Terrace football is going to look like. Are you a guy that looks to spread it out and try to score 100 points? Or are you like, hey, we're going to ground it out and have like 10-minute long offensive drives and just keep the ball away from the other team? Like, what kind of brand of football should we expect?
Yeah, so, my experience as an offensive coordinator and a run game coordinator, there's a foundation of running the football. I always say we're going to run the dang football. You got to run to win. But also being a quarterback coach and a quarterback myself, you got to throw to score. So, we've adapted, the offense has adapted over 10 years. We're going to be multiple enough to play to our strengths on any given year. I think you have to be. But at the foundation, we are going to play good defense and we're going to run to win. We're going to go for 4 quarters of max effort. And when the final whistle blows, make sure we have nothing left.
Coach Taylor, based on the family that you come from and how long you've just been around football your entire life, did you feel like you were destined to be a football coach? Like, was that always in the back of your mind, like, I'm not going to be a doctor, I'm not going to be a lawyer, I'm not going to be a mechanic, I'm going to be a football coach when I grow up?
Yeah, I wouldn't say destined, but I think it's definitely something I wanted to be. I was never the most talented. I was never the best in the weight room. But I knew the game and I knew how to work and get after it. And I think that even as a high school kid, as a middle school kid, watching my grandpa do what he does and, eventually getting in the mix myself, that was always the appealing part to me. So yeah, I wouldn't say destined, but it's definitely something I always wanted to do, and I'm excited now that we get to do it.
And Coach, here we are, towards the middle of May right now. We've still got several more months before those first games in August. What are some of the things that you're doing right now as a team to get ready? I don't know, weight room, 7-on-7, lineman competitions. Like, what are some of the things that you guys are doing right now to get ready?
Yeah, so the weight room's a big one. We've been lucky enough. Coach Perez is staying on as our D-line coach, and he's been running the strength and conditioning here and does a really good job. So we're continuing with that. And I think, like you said, being in the middle of May, really upping it. Now some of our track kids are back. We're lucky enough to have Xavier Oliver, who's a stud for us. He qualified for Masters in the high jump, jumped to 6'4". So we're waiting on him to get there. That's a big piece. We can't wait to have back, but we're excited for him. But now that we have, almost the entire set of returners back in the weight room, it's really up in the pressure, up in the heat in there. We're getting out on the field now and doing spring ball, which has been fun. There's a learning curve, like I said, with some of the things we're doing differently. But for our kids, I think the big thing for us was I always tell them I want you to be habitually excellent in everything that you do in life. So part of that for me is you got to go compete. So I think the transition, I call it the honeymoon phase for us being here is over, and we're getting back to work and competing every day. So, weight room, classroom, on the spring ball field, just compete.
And Coach, finally, my last question is, here we are again, just a couple months away from the start of the season. Do you feel like, okay, we still got some time to get better, or are you thinking in the back of your mind, man, we don't have a lot of time. Like we need to accelerate. We need to be doing all these things to be ready for the upcoming season.
I think it's a little mixture of both. You got to balance. That's one of the things I think being a head coach now in the first gig, you got to be able to balance it. As an offensive coordinator, I this time of year, I'd normally be like, hey, we got time. We're all good. And now I'm sitting there going, well, we got to get this done now and do this here. And so it's fun. We're balancing it well. I think for the kids, they understand there's time for learning curves right now. But as long as the effort and the intensity and the attention to detail is consistent, we'll be okay.
Well, Coach Taylor, I'm glad we could finally make this happen. Congratulations on the Grand Terrace gig, and can't wait to see you guys in helmets and pads pretty soon. I appreciate it. You got it. That is Ryan Taylor, the new head football coach for Grand Terrace, joining us here on the Inland Sports Show. Inland Sports.